Tate Martell. You remember the name. Tate Martell was basically a walking mixtape out of high school. 5-star swagger, Elite 11 champ, and the kind of dual-threat QB who was built to break Twitter. He committed to Washington, flipped to Texas A&M, then finally signed with Ohio State, and never started a single game. After backing up Dwayne Haskins, Martell hit the portal in 2019 thinking the job at Miami was his. And honestly, so did a lot of fans. He posted training clips, hyped up the "U is back" culture, and even got a waiver to play right away. But once camp started, he couldn't even win the backup job. First, he got moved to wide receiver, then back to quarterback, then the bench. By 2020, Martell opted out of the season. Then he transferred again to UNLV, his hometown team, and threw all of 14 passes in 2 seasons there before retiring. This guy went from national cover star to a punchline in the transfer portal era. No injuries, no scandals, just never made it work anywhere. Tate Martell might be the original portal king, but not in a good way. Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler was supposed to be Lincoln Riley's next Heisman project. 5-star, QB1 documentary star, cannon for an arm. He took over at Oklahoma in 2020 and threw 28 touchdowns in a pandemic-shortened season. The hype entering 2022? Unreal. He was a preseason Heisman favorite and a projected top 10 NFL draft pick. Then came the Red River rivalry. Rattler struggled early against Texas, got benched for Caleb Williams, and never started for Oklahoma again. Just like that, the Rattler era was over. He hit the portal and landed at South Carolina, a team desperate for QB stability. Fans figured even a downgraded version of Rattler would dominate in the SEC East. And yeah, he had flashes. That insane game against Tennessee in 2022 was magical. But the full body of work? Nah. In 2 full seasons, he finished with a 13-12 record and 37 touchdowns to 20 picks. He went from Heisman hype to a day 3 NFL draft pick. Not a total collapse, but compared to where he started, it's hard to call it anything but a flameout. Especially for a guy who once looked like the next Kyler or Baker in Norman. JT Daniels. JT Daniels' transfer saga is basically the college football version of a Shakespearean tragedy. He was a 5-star phenom who reclassified early to start at USC as a true freshman in 2018. He had the arm, the pedigree, the poise, everything but the wins, and then he tore his ACL in the first game of 2019. That injury opened the door for Keaton Slovis, and JT hit the portal. His next stop, Georgia, and once again fans thought he'd be the missing piece for a national title. He even looked good at the end of 2020. But then Stetson Bennett took over in 2021 and Daniels was back on the sideline watching someone else lead Georgia to glory. So another transfer, this time to West Virginia. Didn't work there either. Bad offense, coaching changes, more losses. One last stop, Rice. Yep, JT Daniels ended his career at a group of 5 schools, taking brutal hits behind a shaky line. Over 5 years, he played for 4 teams, never stayed healthy, never held on to a starting job, and finished with more questions than answers. For a guy who started at USC at age 17, it's hard to believe how far he fell. Real quick, if you're enjoying this trip down transfer portal memory lane, do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button real quick. Now, back to the fires. DJ Ouya Galile. When DJ Ouya Galile lit up Notre Dame in his first start for Clemson back in 2020, people were already crowning him as the next great Tigers QB. He had the frame, the arm strength, and the brand deals. He even signed with Dr. Pepper before becoming a full-time starter. The Trevor Lawrence handoff looked seamless, until it wasn't. 2021 was a mess. DJ finished with just 9 touchdowns and 10 picks. Fans said he looked lost, and Clemson's offense sputtered like a team that had lost its GPS. Still, he held on to the job in 2022. But once again, he couldn't pull it all together. He got benched in the ACC title game and hit the portal soon after. Next stop, Oregon State. Smaller stage, clean slate, and a run-heavy scheme designed to revive his career. He was solid, not spectacular, and after 1 year he transferred again, this time to Florida State. And that's where it all completely unraveled. DJ was named the starter, but the wheels came off almost immediately. Turnovers, missed reads, and 0 rhythm. He was benched just a few games into the season, and FSU turned to a backup who instantly looked more comfortable. DJ's college career ended with a thud. A 5-star prospect who started hot, cooled off fast, and never figured it out. Max Brown. Max Brown was the definition of a can't-miss prospect. The #1 QB in the 2013 class, Gatorade National Player of the Year, a West Coast Golden Boy headed to USC, ready to follow in the footsteps of Carson Palmer and Matt Leinart. And then he got Wally pipped. Brown sat behind Cody Kessler for years, and when he finally got his shot in 2016, he lasted all of 3 games before getting benched for a redshirt freshman named Sam Darnold, who instantly looked like a future first-rounder. Brown hit the portal and landed at Pitt, hoping to resurrect his career in the ACC. Spoiler, he did not. He started the season but struggled badly. The Panthers got blown out by Oklahoma State and managed just 7 points against Georgia Tech. Brown's mechanics were off. His confidence was shot, and he looked nothing like the 5-star prospect people once fought over. By midseason, he was benched again. Then he tore his shoulder, and his college career ended quietly. Brown's career was a harsh reminder. Being the best high school QB in America means nothing once you're behind a future NFL star, or playing behind an offensive line that can't protect you. Joe Milton. Joe Milton looked like a created player in NCAA football. 6'5", 245 pounds, rocket arm, runs like a tight end. Michigan fans were convinced they had the next Cam Newton. And at first, it looked legit. He lit up Minnesota in his debut and had everyone tweeting about Joe Milton Heisman odds. Then came the accuracy issues, the pocket awareness, the turnovers, and the quick benching. He couldn't hang on to the job at Michigan and hit the portal after the 2020 season. Next up, Tennessee. When Milton arrived, he immediately won the starting job and immediately started missing wide-open receivers by 15 yards. Fans were frustrated, coaches were scrambling, and after just 2 games, Milton got hurt, which opened the door for Hendon Hooker, who never gave the job back. Milton stayed as a backup, then got another shot in 2023 after Hooker left for the NFL. This was supposed to be his moment. Big arm, experienced roster, same offense, but it never clicked. Tennessee's offense looked flat, and Milton was inconsistent all year. The Vols ended up with a solid season, but it was clear they were just biding time until 5-star freshman Nico Iamaleava took over. Joe Milton might have had the biggest arm in the country, and NFL fans in Dallas are hoping his college story was just a speed bump they can laugh about later. Hunter Johnson. Hunter Johnson had all the tools. 5-star talent, Elite 11 finalist, signed with Clemson, a program that had just turned Deshaun Watson into a legend. The future looked bright until Trevor Lawrence showed up. Johnson saw the writing on the wall. With Lawrence locked in as the guy, Johnson transferred to Northwestern in 2018. He was supposed to be a program changer for the Wildcats. Instead, he became one of the most confusing busts of the portal era. In 2 years at Northwestern, Johnson completed fewer than 50% of his passes and threw more picks than touchdowns. Injuries and personal family issues were part of the story, but even when healthy, he just couldn't make it work. He was benched multiple times and eventually lost his job entirely. In a weird twist, he transferred back to Clemson in 2022. Not to start, just to be a backup and finish his degree. That's how far things fell. Hunter Johnson was once one of the highest-rated QBs in the country. He ended his college career with 856 total passing yards and just 5 touchdown passes. If you blinked, you missed it, and that's the part nobody saw coming. Brandon Harris. Brandon Harris was LSU's hometown hope, a dual-threat QB from Louisiana who stayed in state and had all the raw talent to finally stabilize the Tigers' quarterback carousel. In 2015, he started 12 games and helped LSU reach a top 10 ranking. Fans thought they finally had their guy. Then came 2016. Harris played horribly in the opener against Wisconsin, and Les Miles immediately pulled the plug. He was benched and never got the job back. With Danny Etling taking over and a coaching change looming, Harris dipped out and transferred to North Carolina, a program known for developing QBs. On paper, it looked like a great fit, but in reality, it was a disaster. Harris started the 2017 season but was flat out awful. In 6 games, he threw just 1 touchdown and 8 interceptions. UNC's offense completely collapsed, and Harris was benched mid-season for a true freshman. That was the end of his college career. Brandon Harris had the SEC hype, the athleticism, and every opportunity to shine. But between poor mechanics, bad timing, and even worse offensive fit, he became a textbook case of a guy who peaked way too early. Everett Goolson. Everett Goolson's career started with fireworks. As a redshirt freshman, he led Notre Dame to the BCS National Championship game in 2012. Sure, they got steamrolled by Alabama, but Goolson looked like a future star. Then came the off-field stumble, an academic suspension that cost him the entire 2013 season. He returned in 2014 and had his moments, but turnovers piled up and Brian Kelly eventually benched him for Malik Zire. Goolson hit the portal, looking for a clean break and one last shot. He landed at Florida State in 2015, and with Jameis Winston off to the NFL, it seemed like a perfect match. He won the starting job and got off to a hot 6-0 start, and then the wheels fell off. He threw 5 picks in back-to-back losses to Georgia Tech and Clemson, got banged up, and never regained the job. By the end of the year, he was benched in favor of Sean McGuire. Goolson went from BCS title QB to barely hanging on as a starter, and went undrafted. The resume looked great, the ending, not so much. Jake Bentley. Jake Bentley was one of those guys who felt like he'd be in college forever. He started games as a 19-year-old freshman at South Carolina and put up some decent numbers under Will Muschamp, over 7,000 yards and 55 touchdowns in 3 years. But when 2019 started with a pick 6 and a broken foot in the opener, the Gamecocks moved on. Bentley transferred to Utah in 2020, and fans were cautiously optimistic. A veteran QB in a Kyle Whittingham system could work. Instead, Bentley looked totally out of sync. Bad reads, no zip, and no chemistry. He finished the season with 6 touchdowns and 6 picks, and the Utes benched him for good after a brutal 3-interception day against Washington State. Then came one last stop at South Alabama, where he put up decent stats. But it was the Sun Belt, and the buzz was long gone. From SEC starter to group of 5 afterthought, Bentley's career arc was less veteran leader and more just hanging on. Keller Christ. Keller Christ is one of those QBs whose stats looked fine, but the timing never quite lined up. He won 11 games as a starter at Stanford, threw 19 touchdowns in 2016, and seemed like the next in line for David Shaw's plug-and-play system. But he lost the starting job in 2017 to KJ Costello and hit the portal, landing at Tennessee, a program that needed anything resembling a stable quarterback. Christ was a grad transfer with big game experience, and Vols fans were hopeful he'd bring some West Coast calm to the chaos. Instead, he barely saw the field. Christ played backup to Jarrett Garantano, got a couple spot starts, and threw all of 86 passes the entire season. Tennessee finished 5-7 and missed a bowl. The whole thing felt like a rental that never mattered. He quietly left after 1 year, didn't get drafted, and faded from the football map. For a guy who once won 11 games at a Power 5 blue blood, his transfer career ended without anyone noticing. Malik Zire. Malik Zire's college career is a case of what could have been. In 2014, he lit up LSU in the Music City Bowl, outdueling a stacked Tigers defense and earning MVP honors. He was supposed to be the future of Notre Dame. But in week 2 of 2015, he broke his ankle against Virginia. And just like that, Deshaun Kaiser took over. Zaire tried to fight for the job, but the writing was on the wall. He transferred to Florida for a final shot in 2017. Unfortunately for him, Florida was an absolute mess. The offense was broken. The O-line was worse. And Zaire never got settled. He started a couple games, threw 0 touchdown passes, and got benched again. By the end of the year, the Gators finished 4-7, and Zaire's stat line was brutal. 349 passing yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. For a guy once hailed as the future of Notre Dame football, it was a quiet, frustrating exit. Alan Bowman. Alan Bowman burst onto the scene at Texas Tech as a true freshman, throwing for 600 yards in a single game and looking like the next air raid star. But the injuries started piling up. Collapsed lung, shoulder issues, ankle tweaks. He couldn't stay on the field. He transferred to Michigan in 2021, but never sniffed the starting job. He was buried behind Cade McNamara, then J.J. McCarthy, and basically became a glorified practice squad guy. In 2023, he transferred again to Oklahoma State, his 3rd school, and finally got another chance to start. But it was a rocky ride. Bowman was inconsistent. The offense sputtered early, and while they rallied to make a bowl, he finished with just 15 touchdown passes and nearly as many turnovers. 3 schools, flashes of brilliance, but nothing sustained. For all the talent he showed in Lubbock, Bowman's transfer saga became a long, winding road to nowhere. There you have it. 13 quarterbacks who took the portal leap and landed straight on the bench. Some flamed out early, some bounced around again, and a few disappeared entirely. We will look at some non-quarterback transfer disasters in a coming video, so be sure to subscribe and watch for the next video to drop.